what is the difference between Lemuria and Mu? One of the reasons I have been conducting research into the lost continent of Mu is because my great-grandfather James wrote a series of books on the subject in the 1920s and 30s. His books are still in print and widely referenced, even after more than 80 years. Any judgment as to the veracity of any of the theories mentioned in this podcast are left to the viewer. One of the many questions I've been asked is, what is the difference between Lemuria and Mu? At first, I didn't know the answer other than to say James called it Mu and never mentioned Lemuria. However, upon further reading, I realized it is not such an easy answer. I have found two authors that proclaim that Lemuria and Mu are the same thing. So maybe there is a link, but then again, maybe not. Starting with the theories of a lost continent named Lemuria, the scientific theories set forth in the late 19th century were created to explain the wide distribution of fossils. Since similar fossils had been discovered on different sides of open seas, it was postulated that an ancient continent once existed to allow these creatures to travel from one place to another, but it has since sunk. This continent was named Lemuria by Philip Schlater in 1864, and the scientific community continued to embellish the attributes of his creation. Ernst Haeckel proposed in 1870 that anthropoid apes rose not fully human from Lemuria, and eventually populated the planet and evolved into the humans of today. This scientific theory of Lemuria was dismissed when evidence of Gondwanaland, plate tectonics, and continental drift all became accepted scientific facts. Subsequent theories of a sunken continent named Lemuria were no longer confined by the rigors of science and eventually took on many different definitions. For instance, Theosophy believed that Lemuria existed millions of years ago and was the home of the third root race. They were 7.5 foot tall, egg-laying, mentally undeveloped humanoids. The gods saw that they were engaging in bestiality and sunk Lemuria millions of years ago. The Rosicrucians placed the rise of Lemuria to be 200,000 years ago, and postulate that as waves of change cross the globe from east to west, the eastern coast of Lemuria wedged into the western coast of North America, where it still survives. Also surviving are some of the enhanced humans with paranormal powers that once populated Lemuria, under Mount Shasta in western California. The Indian Ocean continent of Kumari Kandam was sunk at the end of the last ice age with the rising sea levels and had reached the height of human achievement 50,000 years ago. One category of Lemurian theories is evoked through the interaction with non-corporeal entities, beings from other planets, or dolphins. My research has not undertaken their study. These are just a few examples of the different definitions of Lemuria, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to recognize that there is no one definition of Lemuria or what it means to different people. On the other hand, the theory of Mu as a Pacific Ocean continent was proposed by my great-grandfather James Churchward. Earlier references to Mu or Mu, spelled M-U or M-O-O, by Brasseur de Bourbourg or Le Plongeon respectively, are in reference to the Atlantic Ocean continent Atlantis. Churchward's Mu was created, he wrote, from his translation of tablets he alone saw in India in the 1860s. It covered almost the entire Pacific Ocean and existed for hundreds of thousands of years until it was sunk in a cataclysm 12 to 14,000 years ago. It was a utopian society, peopled with advanced human beings with paranormal powers that spread across the globe and began civilization for all humanity. Later writers have also borrowed the name. One version says that Mu was sunk in an atomic war against Atlantis, and another details alien involvement with the people of Mu. Are Lemuria and Mu the same as proposed in some books? Or does it even matter? Examining the question from the purest viewpoint, they are not the same. On the other hand, a sunken continent discussion over a few beers, and they could easily be the same. The bottom line is that each of us have our own concept of these lost lands and have to answer the question for themselves. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.